Good afternoon. Welcome to our June 16th meeting. Today's City Council meeting will be preceded by a brief meeting of the Park Central Community Facilities District Board. I will call to order that Facilities District Board. Will the City Clerk please call the roll?
Board Member Ansari.
Here.
Board Member Conlin. Board Member Conlin.
Here.
Thank you. Board Member DeCiccio.
Here.
Board Member Gervais.
Here.
Board Member Guardado.
Here.
Board Member O'Brien. Board Member Pastor. Board Member Stark.
Here.
Board Member Waring. Vice Chair Garcia.
Here.
Chairwoman Gallego.
Thank you. We'll begin a public hearing on the proposed district budget for fiscal year 2021-22 and the proposed 5-year financial plan for the district. We do not have any members of the public to address the board on this item, so I will close the public hearing. Do we have a resolution?
Motion to approve the resolution?
Do we have a second?
Second.
Roll call.
Ansari. Conlin.
Aye.
DeCiccio.
Yes.
Gervais.
Yes.
Guardado.
Yes.
O'Brien.
Yes.
Pastor. I apologize. Pastor.
Yes.
Thank you. Stark. Waring.
Out.
Garcia.
Yes.
Gallego.
Yes.
Passes 10-1.
Thank you. That concludes the business of the board. Thank you to boards members Conlin and Gervais for your participation. We are adjourned. We next call to order the Phoenix City Council formal meeting for the 16th of June, 2021. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilwoman Ansari. Councilman DeCiccio.
Yes. Here.
Councilwoman Guardado. I apologize. Councilwoman Guardado.
Here.
Thank you. Councilwoman O'Brien. Councilwoman Pastor. Councilwoman Stark. Councilman Waring. I apologize, Councilman Waring. Thank you. Vice Mayor Garcia.
Here.
Mayor Gallego.
Mario Barajas is with us here today to provide interpretation. Mario, would you introduce yourself?
Thank you. Hello, my name is Mario Barajas, and I'll be serving as today's Spanish interpreter. I'll now take a few moments to introduce myself to our Spanish-speaking audience. Muy buenas tardes a todos. Mi nombre es Mario Barajas. Seré yo quien estaré sirviéndoles con la interpretación del español el día de hoy. Muchas gracias. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you for your service, Mario. I will turn to our city attorney after the clerk reads the 24-hour paragraph.
Ahora vamos a
Will our clerk please read the 24-hour paragraph?
The titles of the following ordinance and resolution numbers on the agenda were available to the public at least 24 hours prior to this council meeting and therefore may be read by title or agenda item only. Ordinances number G6866 through 6868. S47639, 47647, 47649, and 47658 through 47723, and resolutions 21929 through 21933.
Thank you so much. Public is invited to participate and provide comment on important items during the council meeting. We we'll turn to our city attorney to explain that portion of our meeting.
Thank you, Mayor. Members of the public may speak for up to 2 minutes to comment on agenda items to be discussed. Comments must be related to the agenda item and the action being considered by the council. General comments that go beyond the scope of the agenda item must be made during the citizen comment session at the end of the agenda. Speakers must present their comments in a respectful and courteous manner. Profane language and personal attacks on members of the public, council members, or staff are not allowed. A person who violates these rules will lose their opportunity to continue to speak.
Thank you so much. We next turn to the boards and commissions portion of our agenda. Vice Mayor, do we have a motion?
Yes, motion to approve mayor and city council boards and commission nominations.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor, please signal aye.
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 Any opposed, nay? Passes
No.
unanimously. Passes
No, Mayor said no. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Passes 8-1. We advise the state on liquor license applications. And we turn to that portion of our agenda next. Vice Mayor, do we have a motion?
Motion to approve items 2 through 11.
Second.
Any discussion? Oh, second, yes. Second from
Second.
Councilwoman.
And Brian. Councilwoman and Brian.
Perfect. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Nay. Passes unanimously. City Clerk, are we ready for ordinances, resolutions, new business, and planning and zoning?
Yes, Mayor.
Vice Mayor, do we have a motion?
Motion to approve items 12 through 118, except the following: items 13, 28, 31 through 39, 62, 67, 84, 93, 117, and 118. Item 77 is continued to June 23rd, 2021, and excluding these items for public comment, 86 and 90.
Second.
We have a motion from the Vice Mayor and a second from Councilwoman Stark. Any discussion? Roll call.
Ansari. DeCiccio.
Yes.
Guardado. O'Brien. Pastor.
Yes.
Stark.
Yes.
Waring. I apologize. Waring.
Yes, did you hear me? Yes.
Yes, thank you. Garcia.
Yes.
Gallego. Passes 9-0.
We next move to item 13, USCM membership. Do we have a motion?
Motion to approve item 13.
Any discussion? Roll call.
Ansari.
Yes.
DeCiccio.
No.
Guardado.
Yes.
O'Brien. I apologize. The audio is a little choppy over here.
Yes.
Thank you. Pastor. Stark. Waring.
Oh, did you hear me?
Thank you. I did. Garcia.
Yes.
Gallego. Passes 7-2.
We next move to item 28, Fort McDowell Yavapai Nation gaming grants.
Motion to approve item 28.
Second.
And noting that Councilwoman Pastor will not be participating in this vote. Any discussion? Roll call.
Ansari. DeCiccio.
Yes.
Guardado. O'Brien. Stark,
Yes.
Waring,
Yes.
thank you, Garcia,
Yes.
Gallego.
Yes.
Passes 8-0.
Item 31 is a public hearing on the adoption of the proposed property tax levy, truth in taxation, and adoption of the final 2021 annual budget. I now declare the hearing open. We do have one member of the public to address us on this item, and then significant number of the public to address us on item 33, which is the operating funds budget. Amanda McCauley, the floor is yours.
Hi, thank you. I think that I was just confused on which item I was trying to just to talk to, and I think it's actually number 33. So in regards to police funding.
Perfect. We will then take you on item 33.
Thank you.
Thank you. The public hearing is closed. Item 32 is a convening of a special meeting of the City Council to consider adoption of the 2021-2022 budget. Do we have a motion?
In accordance with state statute, I move that the regular meeting of the City Council be recessed and the City Council convene a special meeting to consider adoption of the budget.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? This will be a voice vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, nay? Passes unanimously. Item 33 is adoption of the final 2021-2022 annual operating funds budget. Do we have a motion?
Mayor, I move that item 33 being ordinance S/47661, the final 2021-2022 annual operating funds budget be adopted.
We have a motion and a second. This is our third such vote on this budget in keeping with state law. We do have a large number of members of the public here to address the council. Our staff will call the members of the public, but we'll begin with Amanda McCauley, followed by Nadine.
So my name is Amanda McCauley, and I am calling to represent the Arcadia-Callenbach Neighborhood Association regarding the Phoenix Police budget funding. And we did send a letter. Hopefully everybody received it, but just in case, we did want to have the letter read into the record. So I just wanted to go ahead and read that. Dear Mayor Gallego and council members O'Brien, Waring, Stark, Pastor, Guardado, DeCiccio, Ansari, and Garcia. The Arcadia-Callenbach Mountain Neighborhood Association, or ACMNA, would like to voice its concern relating to police budgetary cuts. We believe it is imperative that the current police funding levels remain unchanged and that efforts be made to rebuild our understaffed precincts. Currently, the department is losing an average of 18 officers per month while hiring a mere 10. This net loss comes during a year when Arizona has also seen one of the largest influxes of residents on record and a migration which shows no signs of slowing. More people with fewer officers has led to an increase in violent crimes and delays in response times. The well-publicized movement to defund the police has sprung from incidents seen at a national level, not at our local level. Under the leadership of Chief Jerry Williams and our local precinct commander, Chris Irick, we have seen high standards of ethics, equality, respect, and compassion for our diverse population. Our city's police should be celebrated, supported, and appropriately funded. Let Phoenix Police Department be a model for community relations between peace officers and the citizenry they serve. Thank you for allowing us the opportunity to provide our input.
Our next speaker is Nadine Aloria, followed by Stan Bates. Nadine, are you on the line? Nadine is not on the line, so our next speaker is Stan Bates, followed by Ann Ender. Stan, are you on the line?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you. Please proceed.
Good afternoon, Mayor Gallego and Phoenix Council members. My name is Stan Bates, and I've lived in Phoenix for over 40 years. I want to take a couple moments and express my family's and my support for the Phoenix Police Department. I could give several pages of information that some of you might similarly dismiss because it does not meet the agenda you are trying to force through on the citizens of Phoenix. However, I do want to point out one thing that needs to be crystal clear to everyone. The number one priority of every government official, whether they be elected, appointed, or hired. That priority needs to be the protection and safety of each of the citizens that reside in your city. Nothing is of higher priority or importance. Your police department is the only defense that most of your citizens have, protecting them from the increasing violence that is occurring within the borders of the city of Phoenix. Ironically, the districts where the reduction calls are coming from appear to be those plagued by increasing calls for service, especially with violent crimes. Response time for all services have increased dramatically, but are most evident in the priority one calls where life or death incidents are taking place. We cannot afford to lose any more officer positions, and in fact need to vastly increase the number of officers to protect our citizens to be in line with communities of similar size and both population and square mileage. In the 40 years I've lived in Phoenix, I've lived in several of the various districts. I implore each of you to please vote to save our police force and not to reduce any of the police staffing. Perhaps a saner approach on how to deal with this matter should be to have those districts that wish to reduce the number of police officers to voluntarily allow those officer positions to transfer to other districts where their services are most appreciated. Thank you for listening to my thoughts, and I pray that police staffing levels are not reduced. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Ann Ender, followed by Gabriel Espinoza. Ann, are you on the line?
I am. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you. Please proceed.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Gallego, Vice Mayor Garcia, and council members. I think by now you know that I'm Ann Ender, and I'm the president of Operation Blue Ribbon. But I'm grateful to be and proud to be a first-generation native Phoenician, and like my third, fourth, etc. generation friends and colleagues, I do truly care about the future of our city. I don't think I can say anything as well as Mr. Bates just did, so maybe I can save us some time other than to say, if we don't have safe communities, how do we attract businesses to the city of Phoenix? In 1955, Motorola Semiconductor Division chose the Valley of the Sun as a nearly ideal location to manufacture semiconductor products. Among those qualifiers were that the availability of skilled employees, and the major draw was the excellent living conditions. Well, what happens to our living conditions if they aren't excellent? And that part of the reason for that is because we don't have a fully staffed police force and a supportive police force. So I just want to put out there respectfully to be prepared for economic impacts if we don't staff our police department and have safe neighborhoods, or be prepared for the loss of revenue as businesses revolt and refuse to pay their taxes because of the crime affecting them, such as some of the businesses and restaurants in Baltimore. Are you prepared for revenues lost due to the exodus of long-time, deeply rooted residents because of the escalation of crime? Well, I don't want to be one of those leaving Phoenix, but I have to see that our city government supports the police department. If we don't find qualified candidates that we can recruit and retain. So during these meetings, we've heard many times several of the council members express their gratitude for, oh, no, thank you.
Our next speaker is Gabriel Espinoza, followed by Cynthia Graber. Gabriel, are you on the line?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you. Please proceed.
Hi, my name is Gabriel Espinosa. I'm speaking in regards to a youth basketball program called Pal Elite Basketball that is ran by Officer Carl of the Phoenix Police Department. It's a youth program that's ran by the police department. My son Jacob Espinosa has currently been playing for Pal Elite Basketball for over 2 years. I'm retired due to a disability, and my source of income is disability/SSI. For there to be an opportunity for my son to play for a team like Pal Basketball is tremendously vital, for my son to reach his basketball goals. Because families like me with my type of income just can't afford all the other, high-end club teams. My son has been playing competitive basketball since age 6. I have close to 9 years experience in coaching myself. And I'll tell you, Pal Basketball really gives so much to the kids. They organize properly. They teach proper fundamentals, coaches implementing life skills, players play on a highly competitive platform with college scouting exposure, players having the opportunity to travel with an unbelievable support system from the coaches of the players. Thanks to Officer Carl and Coach Dev and Pal Basketball, my son received an offer to play college basketball at Park University. He's scheduled for a campus visit next week. So I really highly support keeping Pal Basketball in your budget and running. Officer Carl is doing a tremendous job with this program. He's really running it the right way, organizing it, coordinating it properly, and it's budgeted and funded through the Phoenix Police Department. So I highly support you guys keep Pal Basketball running, and that's what I have to say about this budget matter.
Our next speaker is Cynthia Graber, followed by Jose Guzman. Cynthia, are you on the line?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you. Please proceed.
Perfect, thank you. Mayor, council members, and city staff, thank you for putting together a well-researched budget. I am 100% in support of this budget and all funding related to public safety. I am a fourth-generation native, and I care about making Phoenix better for generations to come. We are the 5th largest city. Let's make Phoenix an example for all America and city councils and show how teamwork exemplifies progress. Our team, mayor, council, staff, and Phoenix residents 100% support and back our Phoenix Police Department and all public safety. Let's become a city that every other city strives to be, and that is united. Let's do what is best for all 1.7 million Phoenix residents and keep Phoenix safe. Phoenix will grow and prosper when we all work together for the benefit of our great city. One more thing. Go Phoenix Suns. Win. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Jose Guzman, followed by James Hill. Jose, are you on the line? Jose is not on the line, so our next speaker is James Hill, followed by Caroline Lobo. James, are you on the line? James is not on the line. Our next speaker is Caroline Lobo, followed by AJ Marsden. Caroline, are you on the line? Caroline, are you on the line? We do not have any audio for Caroline, so our next speaker is AJ Marsden, followed by Frank Steinmetz. AJ, are you on the line?
Hello, yes. Hello to all who are actually listening. This third vote will pass like the second vote, and I support the budget. A majority of Phoenix residents are community engaged, yet not always civically engaged. But day after day for years, your constituents have been voting for police funding, support, and partnership by their actions. Every community meeting, block party, coffee with a cop, and cleanup is a vote with their time. Your community engaged constituents and our officers keep your districts safe. Think about your message to all these engaged constituents and officers about their safety when you fund, support, and partner with our police. We are very thankful. Think about your message to criminals If you defund, disrespect, and distance yourself from our police, the criminals are very pleased. Our officers are all over Phoenix protecting your constituents right now. You know, our officers who arrest people who do crazy things while driving and kill people with their cars, steal, murder others. Our officers arrest people who molest and abuse kids, sell drugs, assault others, abuse animals, steal IDs, stalk and traffic girls. You know, our officers who respond to our calls for service. Watch before the badge Facebook segments to learn about some of our officers. We need more officers. Let's ensure Phoenix is a city where police applicants want to come to and protect us. Yeah, a few budget items might not align with your goals, but we all need protection from criminals. Your constituents, visitors, and our officers deserve police funding, support, and partnership. Let's ensure Phoenix is a city where police applicants want to come to and protect us. And if I have time, I always end by saying, I'd be happy to talk more about these ideas with anyone willing to chat, and that Phoenix PD and Communications are hiring. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Frank Steinmetz, followed by Jeff Tissot. Frank, are you on the line? Frank, are you on the line?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you. Please proceed.
Thank you for passing this funding. Now I have to change my presentation. Having served in public office very similar to you council members 52 years ago, I was told that the swearing in of my primary function was to work for the safety and well-being of the entire community, not just my election area. Is that not what each of you are supposed to be doing? We're the 5th largest city in the nation, yet we rank 14th in the police officers per 10,000 population. Even if we were to reach the 3125 officers approved in this current budget, we would still rank about 11th in officers versus the current population, let alone the future population increases. Our CAOs and multi-housing officer levels especially need more staff, as they are far below what they should be to meet the needs of all communities. If you ever work closely with a CAO or multi-housing officer, just think what your community would be like if they had 15 or 20 CAO multi-housing officers working in your community. If you never worked with a CAO or multi-housing officer, I highly recommend you spend 4 to 5 days at a minimum with these officers, then sit back and honestly decide their value to your community. Thank you for approving this budget so we can at least get the 3125 officers. Then we can work on raising that level to 4,000 officers. After all, it is for the safety of the entire city, which you are responsible for. Thank you. Stay safe and stay healthy.
Our next speaker is Jeff Tissot, followed by Darlene Vallow. Jeff, are you on the line? Jeff is not on the line. So our next speaker is Darlene Vallow, followed by Tom White. Darlene, are you on the line? Darlene is not on the line. Our next speaker is Tom White, followed by Sharice Dickerson. Tom, are you on the line?
Yes, I am. Everybody that isn't on the line is in agreement with me that you're doing great on this budget. I thank you all for everything that you do. It's not easy. Just driving in today, you could tell the need for more police officers because of the people that passed you at 70, 75 miles an hour, or the people that tailgated you all the way in. And the officers are doing other higher priority things than traffic patrol. And we need people in that area for safety. And I thank you for all you do. Everything's been said before, but again, thank you. And I do support this.
Our next speaker is Sharice Dickerson, followed by Maria Garcia. Sharice, are you on the line? Sharice is not on the line, so our next speaker is Maria Garcia, followed by Kim Garner. Maria, are you on the line? Maria is not on the line. Our next speaker is Kim Garner, followed by Barbara Jennings. Kim, are you on the line? Kim is not on the line. Our next speaker is Barbara Jennings, followed by Pam Civilli. Barbara, are you on the line?
I am. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you. Please proceed.
Yes, thank you for taking the time to listen to my message. I'm just calling because I want to reiterate what so many people said as far as funding the police. We need to fund the police, and we need to stop trying to defund the police every other week. This has to stop. We have other states and other cities that we can look to see what happens when you defund the police, especially when we have a mass amount of illegal immigrants coming through our borders. We have detention facilities being set up in our neighborhoods. This is not the time to even consider defunding the police. I hike every week at Payaskwa Peak, and I've seen cop cars every time trying to recruit people to be policemen. If you do not get behind our police, they aren't going to want to come. They are not going to want to serve in Phoenix if they do not have the support from Phoenix City Council and from our government, and I don't blame them. This has been a hellish year for our policemen. They are undervalued, and it is very sad, and it's time to change that. It's time to respect our police, understand how they risk their lives every day, and we have to stop putting this on the agenda to defund the police. If anything, like so many people said, we need to fund the police. We need more policemen now more than ever, especially due to the border crisis we have going on right now. So I appreciate that you passed this budget, keeping all their funding, but this has to stop. This has to stop. Defunding the police should not be considered at all anymore. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Pam Civilli, followed by Lavelle Lewis. Pam, are you on the line?
Yes, thank you very much. I appreciate being able to speak before this group because I know running a large organization, especially a city as tremendously huge as Phoenix, is incredibly complicated with a lot of decisions to make and never enough money. But I strongly agree in pretty much every way with the people who have spoken before me that having a strong police force, having enough staffing, having the clear support of this representative body here transformed the city. I know that, for example, my daughter went to school in university in St. Louis, and it was appalling to see how little the police were able to do to manage crime. People had to carry their own weapons and defense dogs for personal safety in any area of the city. And still there was a really high rate of crime. So that's just my own little small personal testimony. And the last thing I want us to see is to go down a path like that for Phoenix, because safety affects every single one of us, especially those, who can't afford those extra measures for personal safety that some people can. So this is especially for, let's say, the middle class, the newer residents and more. And anyway, sorry, I don't want to get too wordy, but definitely please fund the police. Thank you very much.
Our next speaker is Lavelle Lewis, followed by Amanda McCauley. Lavelle, are you on the line?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you. Please proceed.
Okay, thank you. I want to thank everyone for just giving me an opportunity to speak before you all. And I have been a resident of Phoenix my whole adult life. And I'm calling on behalf of the PAL program as well. I'm a single father with a couple boys, and I have a temp job right now where I work in human services, and hopefully I'll be hired on full time and with benefits. Well, I say all that to say this: my funding is limited for me to keep my boys engaged in activities such as basketball at the next level, and just to have them do something productive. PAL's been like a godsend for us, and I know there's other representatives that are in the community that I live in South Phoenix that would share the same sentiment, but aren't on this call. Either they're working or doing other things. but I hopefully speak for them as well, because I talk to the parents at the games, and we talk about how meaningful PAL has been to us. And I think just with the already fragile morale, with the relationship between law enforcement and the community, to get rid of something that's working to kind of bridge that gap between law enforcement and the community, speaking specifically for South Phoenix, which is not necessarily known to have the greatest relationship with law enforcement, would be a shame to lose that. Officer Carl has been amazing to my son and other African American males, because I'm a Black male, that aren't necessarily trusting of police. He's built rapport with all of us and has our trust, and it'd be a shame for that to fall by the wayside. And that's my time, and thank you for hearing me out.
Mayor Lavelle was our final speaker on this item. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you all for the important testimony on our budget. We will close the public hearing. Council member comments. Councilwoman O'Brien.
Thank you so much, Mayor. First, I want to thank the staff here at the city and all the different departments who put so much time and effort into creating this budget. My office has received well over 200 emails and phone calls asking us not to defund the police and to oppose the budget. However, I want to make this very clear. I do not support reducing or defunding our public safety officers. This budget, as proposed, does not defund the police. There's been some misinformation passing around claiming the current budget will cut or fully defund the police. This simply is inaccurate. In fact, this budget actually provides more funding to our public safety department. In addition, civilian positions created for the expansion of the Community Assistance Program, which will work to provide properly trained responders to de-escalate situations where police officers may not be involved. I will be supporting the budget as written so that our police force can continue to receive the funding they need in order to keep our neighborhoods and communities safe, as well as to actually recruit more officers in order to maintain the recommended 2.5 officers per 1,000 residents requirement. This budget also helps to address early childhood education attainment for our most vulnerable communities. I believe a proper education for every child is the first step to raising Phoenix to the standards I know we can achieve. This budget also allocates necessary funding to help address our homeless population and works to create regional solutions with our neighboring municipalities to ensure our city doesn't bear the brunt of helping these people. This budget also provides necessary funds to our transit department, which connects our citizens across the city. I hope to work closely with them over the next year to develop new routes into the northern part of the city. Once again, I want to thank everyone who put all their time and effort into creating this budget. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilwoman O'Brien. Any additional council comments or questions? Councilwoman Pastor.
I just want to appreciate all the work that has been done with the staff on the budget, but in particular also in the water conservation area, as we worked really hard with the community and experts within the community to build our water conservation plan and are able then now to move it through. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman, and thank you for your leadership of our Water Conservation Committee that helped make today's investments possible. That is going to be on our mind during this difficult summer from a drought perspective. Today's budget is very exciting. It brings forward a significant compensation increase for all of our city employees. It recognizes that we have to work hard to develop a top-tier city, and we're going to continue to make the investments that has made Phoenix such an exciting and dynamic and desirable place to live. We want every person to feel safe and respected, and the budget makes investments that allow that to happen. We also know that having a safe place to call home is very valuable, and the budget, again, makes strategic investments to move that agenda forward. We're working to protect our environment and climate. And finally, as I've said many times before, the fastest way to recover from COVID-19 is to invest in public health. We are doing that today. It's a balanced budget that addresses those priorities in a way that is responsible and effective. I am particularly excited about the $15 million we are investing in the Community Assistance Program. We'll help make sure that clinicians, including social workers, can be there responding to 911 calls and helping find proactive solutions in our community. It's a real leadership investment that we are making in the city of Phoenix, and we're excited to see a very successful program grow even further. We are also moving forward with the Office of Heat Response and Mitigation, which will help Phoenix, again, be a leader in responding to climate change. We're going to be planting trees, climate solutions. It really is exciting what this office has the potential to do. Thank you to our city staff for their work on the budget. We had a tough year, but we are moving forward to create a stronger, safer, smarter city, and I'm looking forward to supporting this vote. Roll call.
Ansari. DeCiccio.
No.
Guardado. O'Brien.
Yes.
Pastor. Stark.
Yes.
Stark.
Yes.
Waring.
Mayor, I'd like to explain my vote. In the last 24 hours, I've had occasion to spend a lot of time with our police officers, both from the Black Mountain Precinct and one from Desert Horizon. I just appreciate the passion that they bring to the job, how many hours they dedicate to myself and constituents who are with me. We were doing this on their behalf. I'm voting no because I don't think this budget does enough for police, even though those who have said this isn't cutting police are correct. I still would like to see more done, and the budget includes OAT, and I find that objectionable, as well as some other things that were added. I appreciate the staff effort. I think they did the best they could with the way I guess the politics shaped out, but I think we could do better, and so I vote no. Thank you.
Garcia.
No.
Gallego.
Yes.
Passes 6-3.
Thank you. Item 34 is the adoption of the final 2021-22 capital funds budget. Do we have a motion?
Mayor, I move that item 34 being ordinance S/47690, the final 2021-22 capital funds budget be adopted.
Thank you. Any comments? The clerk will call the roll.
Mayor, if I could just ask before you vote on this one, just a technical thing. There's a slight delay in the audio. So if when you all are hitting your unmute button, if you could hit that, wait just a second, and then give the clerk your vote, it'll make it easier for us to hear. Sometimes if they're done too quickly, we're not catching it. So that's part of our struggle over here. Thank you.
Ansari.
Yes.
DeCiccio.
Yes. Yes.
Thank you. Guardado.
Yes.
O'Brien.
Yes.
Pastor.
Yes.
Stark.
Yes.
Waring. Garcia.
Yes.
Gallego.
Yes.
Passes 8-1.
Item 35 is the adoption of the final 2021-22 reappropriated funds budget.
Mayor, I move that item 35 being ordinance S/47662, the final 2021-22 reappropriated funds budget be adopted.
Second?
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? The clerk will call the roll.
Ansari? DeCiccio?
Yes.
Guardado?
Yes.
O'Brien?
Yes.
Pastor?
Yes.
Stark?
Yes.
Waring? Garcia?
Yes.
Gallego?
Yes.
Passes 9-0.
Thank you. That concludes the business of our special meeting.
Mayor, I move the city council adjourn the special meeting.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Voice vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any against, say nay. The special meeting is adjourned. I hereby declare that the special meeting is concluded and we reconvene the regular Phoenix City Council meeting. Items 36 and 37 are legally required amendments to the current 2021 budget, allowing the city to close out the current fiscal year's budgetary accounts and proceed with the annual independent audit. Item 36, which we will take first, amends the 2020-2021 annual operating funds budget to authorize reallocating appropriations.
Mayor, I move that item 36 being ordinance S/46715, the required reallocation of the 2020-21 operating budget appropriations be adopted.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. We do have one member of the public to address the council on the reappropriated or the annual operating funds budget. Maria Cruz, the floor is yours.
Mayor, it appears that she is no longer on the line.
Wonderful. Thank you. Any discussion? Will the clerk please call the roll?
Ansari?
Yes.
DeCiccio?
Yes.
Guardado?
Yes.
O'Brien?
Yes.
Pastor?
Yes.
Stark?
Yes.
Waring? Garcia?
Yes.
Gallego?
Yes.
Passes 9-0.
Item 37 amends the 2020-2021 capital funds budget to authorize reallocating appropriations.
Mayor, I move that item 37 being ordinance S/46716, the required reallocation of the 2020-21 capital funds budget be adopted.
Yes. Second?
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call.
Ansari?
Yes.
DeCiccio?
Yes.
Guardado?
Yes.
O'Brien?
Yes.
Pastor?
Yes.
Stark?
Yes.
Waring? Garcia?
Yes.
Gallego?
Yes.
Passes 9-0.
Thank you all who've been involved with this important budget process. We next move to item 38, which is the adoption of the proposed update to a pension plan's funding policy. We will have a presentation on this item, and I will welcome our Chief Financial Officer, Denise Olson.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. We're here today to present
a pension strategy for the city of Phoenix. I want to start off with some background information. As you know, we've got two pension plans. The first one we refer to as PSPRS, and that is for our public safety personnel. The second plan that we are responsible for paying into is our COPERS plan, and that covers our City of Phoenix civilian personnel. As you know, per state law, it requires us to adopt an annual pension funding policy every single year. In this policy, it's important for us to acknowledge our assets of the plan, our liabilities of the plan, and the net pension liabilities of the plan. This needs to be posted on our website for transparency purposes on July 1st. The funding policy per law is only applied to PSPRS. However, the City Council over the last 2 years has adopted a policy for both pension plans. I want to talk a little bit about why this is important. So as the CFO for the City of Phoenix over the last 5 years, I will tell you that this is the most critical and challenging issues. And Moody's, a rating agency, agrees with us. They have us on a negative outlook, which means they can downgrade us at any moment. The reasons that we're on a negative outlook is because our pension costs continue to increase, and it really is crowding out our ability to provide essential services. If you look at what our annual pension payments were in 2014, they amounted to $238 million. If you look at what we paid in 2019-20, that amount is now $403 million. Again, this is our annual required contribution payments for both pension plans. So I want to talk about the funding status of our pension plans. If you look at PSPRS for the police, you can see that the funded percent, which means this is how much we have paid into funding the entire plan, we are only at 39%. If you look at fire, we are a little bit better at 40% funded. Again, the goal is to be 100% funded. If you look at our COPERS plan, we see an upward trend in recent years, and that is currently at 60% funded. We have compared ourselves to other U.S. cities, and the median is 71% funded. Now I want to just focus on the COPERS strategy. So as I stated earlier, it's important for us to acknowledge our assets, our liabilities of the plan, which then amount to our unfunded liability, which in COPERS amounts to $1.7 billion. That amounts to a funded percentage ratio of 60.74%. Again, the goal is to be 100% funded. I showed you this earlier, but this adds on a trajectory of where we think this plan is going to end. And you can see that COPERS is on its way to being 100% funded. Some of the things that have helped this plan recently is that we have been able to free up some cash from our enterprise funds to make large payments into this plan and help pay down the liability. One of those funds was our wastewater fund, and we are currently looking at paying down the pension liability for the aviation department over the next 2 years. So staff is proposing our COPERS policy, which is very similar to last year, that again we pay 100% of our annual required contributions. This again is required by state law. We also will continue to look at opportunities to use our enterprise funds such as aviation and water to find opportunities to pay down the pension liabilities for those departments. And we will also continue to look at excess funds that could go towards pensions at the end of each fiscal year. With this pension strategy, in COPERS, we can be 100% funded by 2039 and 80% funded in 2029. I will pause here for the mayor and council to consider the COPERS policy.
Mayor?
Yes, Councilwoman Stark.
Yes, I'm going to declare a conflict on this. It's a potential conflict. I am a member of the COPERS. So I think we probably need to take separate votes. Thank you.
Perfect. We will do that.
Mayor?
Vice Mayor.
Yep. I want to make a motion to approve staff recommendation to adopt the annual COPERS pension funding strategy.
Second.
Thank you so much, Vice Mayor and Councilwoman Pastor, and noting that Councilwoman Stark will not be participating in this item. Do council members have comments on the COPERS pension funding strategy portion of item 38? All right, so this will be a roll call on the motion for the annual COPERS funding pension strategy. Will the staff please call the roll?
Ansari.
Extend my wall.
Ansari.
Yes.
Thank you. DeCiccio.
Yes.
Guardado.
Yes.
O'Brien.
Yes.
Pastor.
Yes.
Waring.
Did you hear me?
I did not. I apologize.
Oh, yes.
Thank you. Garcia.
Yes.
Gallego.
Yes.
Passes 8-0.
Thank you. Do we have additional slides in the presentation?
Yes, thank you, Mayor and City Council. I would like to move on to addressing the second pension plan, which is PSPRS. So on PSPRS, again, I want to highlight our assets, our liabilities, and our unfunded liability, which amounts to $3.2 billion. For PSPRS, we are only 39.81% funded. I want to highlight what we approved last year, what the City Council approved last year for PSPRS policy. The first one is, again, we have to pay 100% of our annual required contributions. We also want to, and I'm going to take you down to the third line, we also want to make sure that we're paying this liability off over a 25-year period. We want to determine if, well, the next thing I'm going to take you down to the second to last line, which is we want to continue to maintain a pension stabilization fund. Currently, we have $41 million in that fund. And with those three items, we'll be 100% funded by 2042. Also in last year's policy, we committed to the council that we would look at any additional revenues. And specifically, what we looked at this year was the result of Proposition 207, which is the increase in marijuana revenues from taxation that was voter approved. The second thing that we wanted to look at is the impacts of the pension plan is if we issued pension obligation bonds. And so we've completed that analysis and are bringing it forward to you today for your consideration. I am now going to turn the marijuana. There we go.
Councilwoman Pastor.
Denise, can you go back to slide 12? Or 13, I don't know. I think it's 12. In the results right there where it says continue to support pension stabilization fund currently at 41 million. What are we reaching towards? What will be the final dollar amount that it's stabilized?
Yes, Mayor, members of the council, Councilwoman Pastor, thank you for that question. Right now, it's at $41 million, and we think that that is a fund balance that is adequate. Again, the purpose of this stabilization fund is to make sure that if there's any shocking increases in the annual required contribution payment from one year to the next, we can use that fund to supplement that increase versus making cuts to existing programs.
And Mayor, can I have another question?
Please continue, Councilwoman Pastor.
So you're saying cuts to programs. Would it really be cuts to programs, or would it be more of it taking away from the general fund a surplus? Or are you saying we would cut programs?
Mayor, members of the council, what I'm saying is we would use the pension stabilization fund for any increases in the annual required contribution payments to avoid any kind of decreases in the general fund budget. But that would be part of the budget process at the council's discretion at that time.
Got it. That's what I needed to know. Thank you.
And that the largest portion of the revenue, 51%, is already allocated by statute to public safety. There's another 25% expected to be generated by the regular city sales tax. Then we have 7% coming from the shared revenues and 17% that's allocated to highway user revenue fund. The first two components, the public safety allocation and the city direct sales tax, the general fund portion of that, could be used to pay down the PSPRS unfunded liability. The other two components were not considered because of the difficulty in separating out the marijuana portion from total shared revenues and because of the use restriction on highway user revenue fund. So if you look at those two pieces and council chooses to use the public safety allocation and the city's general fund direct sales tax to pay down PSPRS, and this would be extra, this would be in addition to the actuarial calculated annual contribution amount, be a credit positive to the rating agencies because it would assist us in achieving 80% funded status 1 year earlier. This would also ease pension-related burdens by lowering overall pension costs. Now, if you compare that to 2000, the average taxable rate back in 2000 was 7.4%. So the number one criticism of pension obligation bonds, that if you sell these bonds, put the proceeds into the pension system, and then the pension system doesn't earn more than the interest rate that you're paying on those bonds, the system will be worse off. So if we had issued bonds in 2000 at 7.4%, and PSPRS is expecting to earn 3%, you can see that the price that we issued the bonds for would have been high. And if you compare that to the 7 or 7.3% that PSPRS is expecting to earn, that gap is much larger, thereby lowering the risks associated with issuing pension obligation bonds. And I want to talk a little bit more about those risks because one of the things that was really important for us is to heed all our warnings and all our benchmarks and make sure that we mitigated against risks when we were analyzing this. And these benchmarks that I'm going to talk about are right in line with the cautions that GFOA outlines for reasons not to do pension obligation bonds. So the first one, the rate of return might fail to earn more than the interest owed, and that's what I was talking about on the previous slide. Your gap is widened and you mitigate against the risk that you're not going to earn enough in the pension fund. Another caution, they may contain complex and risky financial instruments. Okay, the city has never issued complex financially risky instruments, and we wouldn't do that now. Issuing bonds increase the outstanding debt and use up capacity for other purposes. This is true, and it's one of the big considerations when we looked at this. We wouldn't recommend funding the entire $3 billion pension liability. Instead, we're recommending that we fund only about $1 billion of that. Extended amortization periods. The city has no intention of extending the amortization period. Right now, we're on a 25-year amortization period on the pension liability, and we would not issue pension obligation bonds higher than that period of time. Rating agencies are neutral. This is really important because we leverage our credits quite often for the entire infrastructure of are not impacting our credit ratings. And we believe that this transaction will actually be positive to the rating agencies. That on the next slide. And then finally, one of our major cautions that we look at, because this has been done many times in the past by many municipalities, is utilizing pension obligation bonds for budget relief. So again, we're recommending that we don't do that, that we take the savings and instead of programming it, that we put it back into the PSPRS pension system.
Mayor, I have a question on that.
Councilwoman Stark.
Thank you. How would we ensure that? Because I want to make sure if we go down this route, and I do think we need to explore it, and I do think maybe before we decide to do it, come back for another.
Recommending that you do that today. When we come back with a bond ordinance, we would recommend it at that time. Today, we're just seeking a policy in which criteria would have to exist in order for us to consider issuing.
So Mayor, Councilwoman Stark, just to clarify, so today's vote would set a policy. We think staff's recommendation for you would be for the policy to say that you would use savings to be applied to the pension plan to specifically and legally make that the case, as Kathleen explained. That would be a part of a vote to authorize the issuance of the bonds, which would happen at a later date. So today would be the policy statement, and the actual execution of it would be at a later date.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. Thanks for that clarification.
Thank you, Councilwoman Stark. Councilwoman Pastor.
So what I just heard was this vote would be a policy statement, when I thought this is more of an exploratory to look at this, and then it would be brought back to us as what the possibilities would be. But I'm hearing we're voting for a policy.
Councilwoman Pastor, I think it actually is how you described it, though. The pension policy would be, the pension policy staff is recommending would be to, based on the criteria, and Kathleen will show those in a minute, to pursue pension obligation bonds and use any savings from them to be applied to the pension. That's a policy. To actually go and issue bonds, we would return to the council at a meeting, explain what that is, and lay that out, and then the council at that point would vote whether we would actually go to issue the bonds or not. Is that helpful?
Kind of. It's helpful for me making my choice. Okay, thank you.
Okay, so the policy is we are going to pursue it, but to actually execute it would take another vote of the council with specific detail about that actual transaction. So we couldn't go to the market based on the policy. We could only go to the market after another vote of the council.
Great. Move on to the next slide. So this is the explanation of the savings that I want to talk about as far as what we think the rating agencies would show as a positive. So this tan line going across the top here is our pension costs, what our pension costs would be if we just trudged along as usual, status quo, and we didn't issue any kind of pension obligation bonds. So then if we issued $1 billion worth of pension obligation bonds, and we put that $1 billion into the pension system, the PSPRS pension system, these blue bars are these light green bars that you see coming across would be the cost for the pension. And so you can see there's a gap between that tan line and those green lines, and that would be the savings. And so the blue bars represent the savings that would be generated by issuing $1 billion worth of pension obligation bonds and putting them into the system. And so what we're recommending is that we take those the savings in those blue bars and put them back into the PSPRS system. And I'll show you what that means to the system on the next slide. So here again, if you look at the tan line, this is status quo. This is not doing anything, not issuing any pension obligation bonds. We really need this plan to be at 80%. Currently, as Denise mentioned, it's at 40%. And so we expect that if we do nothing, it'll be at 80% by 2038. If we issue $1 billion of pension obligation bonds, that's the red bar that I just brought in, we could expect to be at 80% funded by 2036. So 2 years sooner by issuing the pension obligation bonds. And this is what most municipalities have done. This is what we've seen across our state recently. But what we're suggesting is that we could take it one step further and we add the savings into the PSPRS plan, and that would get us to 80% funded by 2035. So 3 years sooner in total by using that savings. And then when you add the marijuana revenue that we talked about earlier, you can get to 80% funded by 2034.
Mayor,
Councilwoman Pastor.
can you clarify for me, it's only 1 million and not 1 billion, not 3 billion?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. And my question is why? Why only 1 billion? If we're going to go down this road, why only 1 billion?
Mayor, members of the council, so we did extensive analysis where we did stress testing. We've been looking at this for many years. Really, it comes down to that caution that I mentioned earlier about capacity and making sure that we're not taking capacity away from the city's ability to construct major infrastructure. And so we looked at what those credits could sustain, and this would be on our excise tax credit. And so $1 billion is something that we felt we could sustain and still continue growth within the city. It's also a number that we think PSPRS would be able to handle very easily as far as absorbing into the system and getting it invested and working for us.
Thank you.
So today, staff is proposing a policy for PSPRS, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to break this into 3 different sections to make it easier for discussion for the mayor and city council. So the first part of the policy that we want to address is basically the same thing that we've done consistently over the last 2 years, and that is we want to stress that we want to pay our annual required contribution payments every single year at 100%. The second thing is we want to make sure that we continue on paying down this liability over a 25-year amortization period. We want to continue to support the Pension Stabilization Fund, which is currently at $41 million. And if we follow these strategies, we should be 80% funded by 2038 and 100% funded by 2042. And I will pause there for consideration. Or no, I won't. I will continue to roll. We'll keep rolling. So the second thing, or the second area of consideration by the mayor and the city council is addressing the marijuana tax revenues. What we're proposing is that we incorporate all of the marijuana tax revenues that we receive from the public safety allocation and also all the revenues that we receive for the city's general fund direct sales tax portion and apply that to the pension plan. Again, we think that by dedicating these revenues to pay down PSPRS would be a huge factor with our rating agencies and give us enough tools to fight that negative outlook from Moody's. The third area that we would like your consideration in terms of the strategy is developing a framework for issuing pension obligation bonds. We thought that it was very, very important to make sure that we set a criteria and had an overall strategy that was involved in paying down our pension liability when it comes to issuing pension obligation bonds. And by putting these criteria around when we would issue this, if we were to issue pension obligation bonds, we think that gives us a better chance to really minimize the risk that are associated with these pension obligation bonds. So to minimize the risk, we are saying that we would only issue pension obligation bonds if we could achieve rates under 3.5%, only if we can take the savings and apply it to PSPRS, and only if the rating agencies came in as neutral, saying that they would not have any negative impacts on our existing ratings. And so with that, that is what the staff is recommending for the PSPRS strategy for 2022.
Thank you, Denise. Vice Mayor.
Thank you. I have some questions before I make a motion. If we could look back at what we had up there before, can we put that back up? Thank you. And so I'm comfortable with 1 and 3. I have questions around number 2, and then the city general fund direct sales tax. Do we know either how much the public safety allocation or the city's general fund direct sales tax would be? Or do we have a sense of how much that would be?
Thank you, Mayor, Vice Mayor. What we are projecting right now, and again, this is an estimate, but if we look at 3 years when this has been fully implemented, we're anticipating that from the public safety allocation, we could receive about $11.5 million. From the city, and I think what I'll do is I'll pull up this dollar bill real quick. From the city general fund direct sales, the 25%, we think that we're going to be able to receive about $1.2 to $2 million. And from the other 2 areas, we're looking at a total of about $5 million.
So from the 25%, 1.2, but the 7 and 17, which is the same, because we get bigger percentage, or how does that make sense? The amounts.
I'm sorry, so I just want to make sure I'm being clear. So on the public safety portion, which is the 51%, we're anticipating that we could get $12 million for a year. On the city's general fund direct sales tax, the 25%, we're thinking we could get approximately $5.6 million a year. Half of that would be applied to the general fund, which would amount to about $2.3 million a year. And then we also have the state revenue at 0.7%, which is about $1.5 million. And we have the HERF allocation, which we're anticipating to be about $3.9 million. So the total amount that we anticipate receiving would be about $22.5 million.
But that can also be higher or lower, correct?
Absolutely. These are guesses based on very limited data.
So one of the things, and I want to ask staff if this is possible or if we can do this, is it's hard for me to make a decision right now with it being guesses, especially with the city's general fund tax that can be used for other things. I understand the 51%. So wondering if we can do something where it either goes to the general fund while we know how much this is, or if we pass as you're recommending now, but get an opportunity to decide or bring this back once we know the exact number. Does that make sense? And I don't know if that's the question to Chris. What makes more sense? Is there a way to move with this plan, but once a number is determined, that we have an opportunity to look at it again when we have real numbers in front of us?
Mayor, Vice Mayor, I think we're looking at each other trying to puzzle through it here. I think if I broke it down, I would say the 51% number that Denise identified as 12 million, that by law has to go to PSP, to public safety. So I think at a minimum, if the council would dedicate that amount, that public safety allocation from the state surcharge that comes to Phoenix will go to PSPRS. That's kind of the foundational piece of it. Then what I hear you asking is there a way to identify over time, what is that 25% bar going to actually represent, so that the council can evaluate what you want to do with that amount of money? I think you could certainly make that part of a policy. It's a policy direction there. The most important piece is definitively setting the PSPRS chunk at the public safety allocation as PSPRS. Denise, anything to add on that?
That's correct.
Okay. Yeah, no, that makes sense to me. I just, again, without knowing the exact numbers, I think I could formulate it into a motion. And it's my understanding that we need 3 motions, so if it's okay with you, Mayor, I'll start with the first one.
If I can just, before you do that, Councilman, if I just add, Vice Mayor, add one other thing. The reason why we're recommending the general fund sales tax go to it, and again, this is our recommendation, you guys make the policy, but the more funding we can put to PSPRS early on, the more impact and more effective it is. So in the ideal financial world for PSPRS, having that entire amount go to it is a good thing for bringing that PSPRS liability down. Now, the council has to decide, you have to balance a whole bunch of things. But our recommendation is to try and get as much money as the council can stand towards PSPRS, and that's why we recommended that second piece, that direct sale, that sales tax piece to it. So I just wanted to clarify the reason for the recommendation.
Yeah, so, but Ed, so then...
Mayor?
Yeah, if I could just...
So we'll continue with Vice Mayor.
Yeah, just one last question. So Ed, right now we're assuming it's 11 million on the public safety allocation, but it could, if sales are greater than what we're thinking, could potentially be 13, 15, up to 20 or however much more. All I'm saying is there a way for us to look at this decision once we have those hard numbers in front of us instead of committing to it now? So let's say right now you're saying if we give both of these buckets to PSPRS, and you're assuming that that's a $14 million kind of combined commitment that we're making to that. But when we get the real numbers, isn't it true that just the public safety allocation could even be north of that number, therefore either freeing up, or if we want to pay it down faster, we can definitely come back later and allocate those funds. So just, that's what I'm saying. It makes it difficult to make the full commitment now, not knowing those hard numbers. And we could even be in a better place than we're thinking now if the numbers are greater. And the same for it if it's lower, and then we have to think about maybe increasing from somewhere else.
Yeah, it could be better, it could be worse. As I'm listening to you, one thing that you could consider would be on the city's sales tax side is to do that in arrears. So you go the whole year, see what that number is, and then bring it to the council for a decision about what to do with that money. I'd say up front, say that the public safety allocation is going there, and if you wanted to go the direction you're suggesting, Vice Mayor, we could have the policy say that we're going to hold the city sales tax amount and review it at the end of the year for a specific decision by the council on that portion. I don't know if Denise is going to kill me for saying that or not.
So the only thing I would add to this conversation, and I just have to do it, is I just want to remind the council that last year our annual required contribution payment was $402 million. The budget for this year is $486 million. And so we are seeing significant increases in our pension contribution. And again, we have to pay that per state law. So the more money that we can put towards paying down this pension liability, the better off we were going to be in the long run, especially if we hit a downturn in the economy. But we will make anything work because I will take anything rather than nothing.
And it's a little bit of the, like the recommendation that a financial advisor would give you personally, which is when you get a raise, put a portion of that into savings or investments because it's money you're not used to yet. And so the rationale here is the general fund's not used to this sales tax. So before we get used to it, take it. You're not cutting anything. Take it and put it into that. That's the philosophy of the recommendation from staff.
Thank you. We'll go to Councilwoman Pastor and then Councilman DeCiccio.
So Denise, what I heard, and I think it's the second slide, but I'm not sure. I heard 12 million would go, 12 million is allocated. I don't know what the percentage is. I didn't write it down. Can you move to that slide? Thank you. So 51% is going into PSPRS. And then what I heard was 5.6 million would be going into approximately, that's the 25, the city's general fund direct sales tax. Did I hear that correctly?
Yes, Councilwoman, you did. But I would like to make a clarification here just so that we're being very clear. The 51% has to go towards public safety. We're recommending that we put it toward PSPRS and paying down the liability. Now, the 25%, there's 5.6 that's being collected from the 2.3% sales tax. What we're saying is we would like to apply only the amount that goes to the general fund, which is about 2.3 million. And so that slide's a little confusing, and I apologize for that.
So of the city's sales tax, 1.2%, it's a 2.3% rate.
Yes.
1.2% of that rate is the general fund, and then there's 0.1% for parks, 0.7% for transit and transportation, and 0.3% for public safety, Prop 301 and the others.
Yes, because that is confusing, because I heard different things. I heard 5.6 when we first, 25% would go to the general fund direct tax sale. That's 25%. Then when we started to break it down, 5.6 million is from that area. But then I heard 1.75 or half. I don't know where I'm getting half. I wrote it down, but of that 1.6, then we'll go to PSPRS towards the liability, and then another portion is going into the general fund. Am I hearing that correctly?
So let me just try one more time. So the 25% is going to collect $5.6 million. That's our estimate. That's for our entire tax base. Of that entire tax base, only 1.2% goes to the general fund. And that is what we're recommending we take from the general fund and use it for PSPRS. The rest of it is voter-approved taxes and will go to the voter-approved allocated funds, such as 3PI, Block Watch, and Transit.
Okay, so now, I think I have it. I think I'm clear. Out of the 5.6 million, you are asking for 1.2% from the general fund. The rest of the 5.6 million that is left goes to the general fund that was in the ballot and voter approved, such as parks and everything else. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes.
Yes, that's correct.
And why the 1.2%?
So the way I view this is that is the discretionary amount that we can use for basically for council's discretion. The rest of it is voter approved, and we really can't allocate those dollars.
So I'm trying to process this in my head. So that 1.2% is discretionary. So as a council, we could determine a percentage that could go to PSPRS and that could go to the general fund, if I'm hearing that correctly.
That's correct.
That's correct.
Yes.
Okay.
That's the policy decision of the council. You identified it exactly, Councilwoman.
Okay.
Any additional questions, Councilwoman?
One more. What happens if it's additional, there is additional dollars more than the 1.2%? Does that come back to council?
I don't think there wouldn't be additional dollars above the 1.2%. It would be if the 1.2% number is more than Denise and Kathleen projected. But the policy
That's
would
what I
say.
mean. That's
yeah.
what I mean, the cash number. If it's more than whatever the 1.2, I don't have my calculator right here to figure it out. But the 1.2%, if we generate, or there's money's generated, say 6, 7, then how is that determined?
It would depend on your policy. So if the policy was just simply to put that general fund portion, which is what we're calling the 1.2%, towards PSPRS, then whatever is collected, we would just send to PSPRS. If your policy was specific to say, we want to cap the amount of that for it, let's say at $3 million, and we collected more than the $3 million, then we would come back. You're just getting into very complicated calculations in that, but that's possible. In that case, I guess I would say you'd be better off just saying a policy of, we're going to put half of the 1.2% collection into PSPRS and not worry about what that number is, rather than saying we're going to put a dollar amount on it.
Right.
But
Right, I think there needs, well, go ahead. I'm sorry, I'm out.
Thank you, Councilwoman Pastor. We'll next go to Councilman DeCiccio.
Oh, thank you, Mayor. The plan that's presented by the city staff is probably the least fiscally responsible plan that I would support. Any weakening of that, I wouldn't. And so let me explain to you why, at least from my perspective. The reason staff is, in their nicest way to say this, is that if we don't handle these things in the way that they've presented, by putting these monies toward paying down the debt, we're going to be screwed in the future as a city. And the reason pension obligation bonds that have done in the past, you'll see some cities that have been able to make it and been very successful at it, and then other cities have failed at it and they've lost really their rear ends on it. And the reason why is that they did not set in place fiscal measures and fiscal ways of handling those additional dollars coming in. They started using it for everything else. So debt, pension debt is no different, and this is for the viewing public, I know everyone up here knows it, but pension debt is no different than a bad credit card or a credit card that has gone out of whack. And the only way to bring it down is to, you can refinance it to a lower rate if you can, if your credit standing is strong enough, or you start paying down monies. And if you don't put those monies toward that pension debt or that credit card, then it continues to compound. Compound interest is massive. And that is what hurts, and that's how people make a lot of money, and that's how people lose a lot of money. The other part of this with pension debt, whether it's 3035 or 3038, I don't think any of those numbers are going to work anyways, because this is based off of a pension debt of 7.4% as a rate of return. Now, other than the last few years, we have not seen that ever. So if you based it off of what I believe to be a true pension return of about 5.5%, which is an average over 10 years, then your pension debt would not be $488 million a year. It would be some number considerably higher than that. And that is the real debt that we're looking at. So any weakening of this, and this is not just for this council, it's for, if the majority can make that decision here. But if this council starts to weaken the plan that I don't believe is strong enough from city staff, then you're going to see a future council having to deal with this problem, and the city of Phoenix will go into financial chaos. And that will happen. That's happened across the nation right now. Every city that has not been fiscally responsible up front, being able to pay down that debt, that credit card debt, or pension debt, call it whatever you want, ends up having to eat it later in the future. And so here's something else about pensions, and I could be wrong on this, but I'm pretty sure about it. They are first to be paid. So what ends up happening in the future is that, let's say 20 years from now, 15 years from now, whatever that number is, that we start hitting that wall, pension debt eats up all the future revenues in the future. They just eat it because they are first to be paid. It is a debt that is required to be paid up front. So if we've got a pension debt of $1 billion and our general fund is $1.2 billion, all we're going to be able to do in the future is to do $200 million. That's just the way it is. And staff can correct me on that if I'm wrong on it. But pension debt is always first to be paid because that is a debt that's incurred onto the city of Phoenix, just like most other debts that we incur, like GO debt. So I would strongly encourage the council to adopt this plan. And like I said, I don't believe it goes far enough. It should be a lot more than what's being presented today. But it's fiscally responsible. It's just not perfectly responsible that it should be. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilman DeCiccio. We do have one member of the public to address the council, so we will go ahead and take that comment now. Brian, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. My name is Brian Moore. Good afternoon, Mayor and Council, and thanks for allowing me to make a couple comments. 2 years ago, I was appointed to the Board of Trustees of the Public Safety Personnel Retirement System by Governor Ducey. I'm a Phoenix captain, fire captain, and also Vice President of Member Benefits for United Phoenix Firefighters. I am asking Council to support the pension funding strategy for PSPRS, as well as the recommendations for the marijuana revenues and the pension obligation bonding as proposed by staff to council. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for your service. Councilman O'Brien.
Thank you so much, Mayor. Could you explain to us what happens if we do not make these payments to pay down our debt and we do go into an economic downturn?
Go ahead, Denise.
Thank you. So, Mayor, members of the council, I think what you're saying, well, we have to pay our annual required contributions. We have to, per state law. If we do not make those annual contribution payments, then that starts a sequence of events that's detrimental to the city. I don't know if I'm answering your question correctly, but I will tell you that we pay our debt, and then we pay the pension payments, and then we pay our operation and maintenance cost. And so we would have to make some pretty drastic reductions to make sure that we could pay those priorities in that order.
Thank you so much. You did answer my question. And I do want to voice my support for all three of these proposals. I would agree with Councilman DeCiccio that this is really the least we could do, and it is in our best interest to ensure that we are being fiscally responsible and not making things worse for future years. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilwoman O'Brien. Appreciate all of staff's work on this. I will turn now to Councilwoman Stark.
Thank you, Mayor. I understand where the Vice Mayor is going, because I do think we're going to see a lot of revenue from the marijuana tax. Perhaps we go ahead with our policies here and then revisit in a year and see what kind of revenues we are actually realizing, to see if there could be some money that we could then allocate to the general fund. Just a thought. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman. And just explain where I am on these three. I'm very supportive of item 1 and 2. I think it makes sense to take all available marijuana tax revenue. We have a significant obligation to meet, and it makes sense to me to put that revenue towards it. On item number 3, I am not going to be supporting that one right now. I'm a huge fan of our staff that put this together, and I'm very thankful for all of the hard work that went into it. Also very appreciative of those who served on the PSPRS board right now. I have had concerns in the past about some governance risk with that board, but think there's a very solid and smart group of people who are serving there at this moment. And on this one, I think it would be reasonable for my colleagues to vote in either way, but just will explain my current thinking. During my time as an elected official, we have needed to use credit from our excise tax revenues to address a wide variety of unprecedented or unexpected expenses. And so I would like to be able to preserve liquidity because I don't know what is happening in the future. There have been things like shoring walls from convention centers that have needed to be addressed quickly. I am nervous about what the state legislature will do with state shared revenues, and so want to preserve our options for the future. I also have been looking at what PSPRS is thinking of doing with this money, and they now have hundreds of millions of dollars, I think more than $800 million from other communities that have done these similar transactions that they're putting towards private equity. And I guess I just am concerned that levering up is not consistent with the nature of the obligation of pension payments. We want to make sure we are there for those public safety professionals who are counting on this. I think the prices of private equity where this money might be going reflect very real risks. And so for that reason, I do have concerns. And then in the past, there have been some governance challenges, and I just look at how the board is appointed and folks who might be in the governor's seat in the future. There's also seats, for example, the Senate president. So in the past, Andy Biggs and Karen Fann and others have made appointments here. And I do have concerns in the future about some of the candidates for governor who are likely to succeed and who they might put in these seats, and whether there might be some risks in the future that we do not see right now. So for that reason, I am not going to support item number 3. But again, very respectful of the folks who are moving this forward and think it is a reasonable policy, although it is not right for me at this moment. Vice Mayor, do we have a motion on Councilman DeCiccio?
Oh, thank you, Mayor. Actually, you and I do agree on PSPRS. From my end of it, I would love to disband it and put the police and fire groups under the ASRS. I think that would be more fiscally responsible to do that. Except, however, it doesn't matter what they put their investments in. It does matter, I'm sorry. We don't have control over that. The only control that we do have is whether or not we want to pay down the pension debt, Mayor. So you and I are totally in agreement on the status of the entity itself, and I would love to find a way to get rid of it and move it into a more stable fund, but that's not what's in front of us. The only thing in front of us now is whether or not we want to pay down that debt. And I would feel bad if we didn't, as a city, make a commitment to paying down that debt. Again, how they make their investments, we have very little, if no control over it, unless we move everybody off of that debt and put it into our own system, which might be an option for us to do because we're a lot more stable, quite frankly. So from my end of it, I would be supportive of that. It's a lower interest rate. It's refinancing it at a lower rate. But again, it's just about the debt that we're paying down today. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. And I know from a previous discussion of pensions that you and I both agree some of the investments this pension fund made in the past were unnecessarily risky and didn't pay off. And that's part of the reason for the current funding levels. It's very complicated and certainly reasonable on both sides. And it is important to meet these obligations. Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. And thank you, staff, for bringing this forth, and for 2 and 3 for being creative and getting us in a path forward. So for the first part, I'd make a motion to approve staff recommendation to adopt the annual PSPRS pension funding strategy.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call on item 1.
Ansari. DeCiccio.
Yes.
Guardado. O'Brien. Pastor.
Yes.
Stark.
Yes.
Waring.
Yes.
Garcia.
Yes.
Gallego.
Yes.
Passes 9-0.
We next move to the second item, which is related to marijuana tax revenues. Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. And in this one, like I said earlier, I think it would make me feel comfortable if we decide at that point to know first the numbers. If we decide at that point that the best place to put it is here, I'm okay with that. But I'd like to make a motion to create a policy to apply the available marijuana tax revenues from the public safety allocation and the city's general fund direct sales tax to PSPRS pension plan to be paid in excess of the ARC. And I'd like to add something that if we could revisit this once we know the numbers. And I don't know if I look to Chris or Ed of how we do that. And again, not saying that we will or will not move forward. I just would appreciate knowing the numbers.
Yeah, Mayor, Vice Mayor, this will actually come back to the council every year. By law, this has to be something has to be affirmatively adopted every year before July 1st. And so next June, as a matter of course, we would come back with this. We could report on it more regularly, but the council will actually get a chance to vote on a policy again about a year from now.
Sorry to do this because I know there's a motion on the table. So do we know when we will know what these numbers are?
Denise and Kathleen, how often do you get updates on this revenue collection?
So what would happen is we would definitely have a good sense of what's going to be going on with the city general fund direct sales tax revenues because we get that every single month. Now the public safety allocation we'll receive once a year, but we can also, I think in a year we'll have a very good idea of what that's going to look like based on the city sales tax portions that we're receiving. So we'll have a clearer perspective at the end of next year.
We'll go to Councilwoman O'Brien, followed by Councilwoman Pastor.
Thank you, Mayor. So I guess I would ask Vice Mayor if he would consider making the motion for us to approve the policy as it is presented for this year, with us reevaluating it next year for 2023 when we would have numbers. And if there are greater numbers, we would be able to make modifications to the following year's budget.
I don't know if there was a second, Mayor. Or
we do not.
Sorry.
I did not hear a second.
So can I have a clarification on what the motion is then, Mayor?
That would be very helpful. Vice Mayor?
Over the next year. So we'll be completely transparent on what those revenues are on a month-by-month basis.
Thank you, City Manager. Councilwoman Pastor. We'll go to Councilwoman Pastor and then Councilman DeCiccio.
So Denise, if I heard correctly, we will be receiving monthly reports under all the dynamics, but specifically the city's general fund direct sales tax, we will be receiving reports. My question to you is, we're estimating 5.6 million. I have a gut feeling, but you're better at this, or actuaries are better at this, or people budgeting. If we surpass 5.6 million, then I would like to have a conversation about the additional dollars. So my question is to Chris, or my question is to Ed or Vice Mayor Garcia, is there a way to add that into the motion?
And I understand that you'll come back to us monthly and give us updates. But I want to be able then to say, okay, we've reached our goal, or we reached this point. Now, what do we, with the additional dollars, how do we look at it? Or if we may be able to, we maybe put it back into PSPRS. I don't know.
Mayor, Councilwoman, I think let's just take a hypothetical and say by the February report, we're on track to exceed that. Certainly the council can have a meeting where we can talk about that in February or March if we see that those numbers are trending above that number. Certainly, that's always in the council's purview to bring back and have that discussion. And I would just also clarify, we are talking in this case about recreational marijuana, not the medical marijuana. This is the newly legalized recreational sales.
Thank you. And I do like the idea of having a year of data. I understand that in other states that have legalized recreational marijuana, there is some seasonal variance. Any additional comments? Oh, Councilman DeCiccio.
Mayor? Oh, that's okay. Just want to know what the motion is again. I mean, is there any language in there that softens it to where, I totally agree with Councilman Garcia on this one, 100%. He should always know the numbers. We should always know what they are, knowing full well that we can change the policy later. But any, softening of the language of, hey, we approved this policy for now, not for now, we just approved of this policy, I'm probably not going to support, only because I think it sets a bad standard moving forward. So I'm just trying to understand what the motion was.
To me, it was consistent with the staff motion on item 2. Vice Mayor, is that correct?
That is correct. It's just simply moving forward staff recommendation.
Oh, okay. Perfect. Okay, thank you for that, Mayor.
Thank you. Roll call on item number 2 related to marijuana tax revenues.
Ansari.
Yes.
DeCiccio.
Yes.
Guardado.
Yes.
O'Brien.
Yes.
Pastor.
Yes.
Stark.
Yes.
Waring.
Mayor, briefly explain my vote. I would just say I'm glad we're moving forward as we are, but the concerns that were expressed were valid. But we got to do something, and I'm glad we're moving forward in this direction. Thank you.
Councilman, can you please express your vote?
Sorry, yes.
Thank you. Garcia.
Yes.
Gallego.
Yes.
Passes 9-0.
Thank you. We next move to the third portion related to pension obligation bonds. Vice Mayor.
Make a motion to approve a policy to consider pension obligation bonds when the following conditions exist. Interest rates are under 3.5%. Apply all savings from issuing the bonds to PSPRS, and rating agency indications are neutral.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call.
Ansari. I apologize. Ansari.
Yes.
Thank you. DeCiccio.
Yes.
Guardado. O'Brien. I'm sorry. O'Brien.
Yes.
Thank you. Pastor.
And I will explain my vote. I feel like it's too risky, and I'm just a no.
Stark.
Yes.
Waring.
You hear me? Yes.
Thank you. Garcia.
Yes.
Gallego.
No.
Passes 7-2.
Thank you. That concludes item 38. Thanks to all who serve on PSPRS and who worked hard on this, as well as our COPERS board. We move to item 39, the proposed 19th Avenue and Parsons Road annexation public hearing. I will open the public hearing. We do have one member of the public to provide comment. Paul Gilbert, the floor is yours.
Paul Gilbert, are you on the line?
Board is attending right now. Thank you for your patience.
I apologize. Paul Gilbert, are you on the line?
Paul Gilbert is on the line.
Would you like to speak on item 39?
Only if necessary. I'm not anticipating any need to. You've gone on long enough.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Gilbert. We will close the public hearing. We'll not take any action on this item today. We will move to item 62, which is to repeal the existing pay ordinance and adopt a new ordinance for new rates and compensation.
Motion to approve item 62.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any council comments? Roll call.
Ansari. I apologize. Ansari.
Sorry, yep, I said yes.
Thank you. DeCiccio.
No.
Guardado.
Yes.
O'Brien.
Yes.
Pastor.
Yes.
Stark. Stark. Thank you. Waring.
No.
Garcia.
Yes.
Gallego. I apologize, Mayor.
Yes.
Thank you. Passes 7-2.
Thank you. We next move to an exciting item in District 5, the building assessment services for the former Kmart building located at 2526 West Northern Avenue. This is probably the first project that the Councilwoman Guardado and I sort of spoke about together, and she's been working very hard on this, so I will turn to her for a motion.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, definitely. Very thankful to all of the staff, to the mayor, to everyone on the council for voting to making sure that we can make this a reality. It's definitely going to change what used to be the Kmart. What we're going to be bringing into that corridor is going to be incredibly amazing. New opportunities for people that need to be reskilled, opportunities for our youth in that area. So very excited to see what will be happening there. Once again, huge thank you to Chris Mackey and her team for making this happen. And we've been talking about it for a little bit and excited to see how far it's come. So very proud and happy to be able to make this motion. So I move to approve item 67.
Second.
We have a motion and a second, and this investment comes in great partnership with our community college district, ASU, Westmac. We also made a significant commitment at a previous policy session, and this particular item awards a design contract to a great partner of the city's. So excited to take this additional step forward. Other council member comments? Councilwoman O'Brien.
I want to say how excited I am that Councilwoman Guardado and Mayor Gallego that you worked on this. The prospect of reusing this existing Kmart building into space that's usable for potential education and workforce development space in partnership with our Maricopa Community College District, ASU, as well as Westmec is just incredible. I think I am supportive of anything that will revitalize our communities without tearing them down. and especially when it's education related. So I look forward to finding out what we were able to do with this area. Thank you so much for all your work, both of you.
Thank you, Councilwoman O'Brien. The city's been, I think, a great leader in looking at retail spaces and how we can reinvent them. And I am excited for this one to move forward. Speaking of great leaders who are interested in reinventing retail space, Councilwoman Stark.
Thank you. I too am excited about this project because it doesn't just influence, or it doesn't just change what's happening in District 5. It's going to permeate into District 3 and District 1 and District 4. So great job. Very excited about this.
Thank you, Councilwoman Stark. Certainly a regional asset. Roll call.
Mayor.
Oh, and noting that Councilwoman Pastor will not be participating.
Thank you.
Ansari. DeCiccio.
Yes, and congratulations to Councilwoman Guardado for all her hard work on this and the mayor for all that they've done to move this project forward. I think it's going to be a great benefit for that area. Thank you.
Guardado.
Yes.
O'Brien.
Yes.
Stark.
Yes.
Waring. I apologize. Waring.
No.
Thank you. Garcia.
Yes, and if I could make a brief comment, Mayor.
Please do.
Thank you. I just also want to echo what my colleagues have said and thank Councilwoman Guardado for all her work. I've already having conversations, even with folks working with people without shelter, of how they're looking as this to this place as some support that they haven't felt in that community. Looking forward to not only supporting this and making this successful, but hopefully it becoming something that we can replicate throughout the city and other places. So thank you all so much for your work, and I'm a yes.
Gallego.
Yes.
Passes 7-1.
Thank you. Next, we move to item 84, the extension of the airport concession consultants agreement. Vice Mayor?
Motion to approve item 84.
Second.
Thank you. This is another good news item where we are extending the contract of ACC, who's been a long-time supporter for us at Sky Harbor. And ACC's principal and owner, Cindy Oliveras, has given us a wealth of experience with her knowledge about compliance and monitoring, helping our ACDBE concessionaires and joint ventures. And I think she's been really an important partner in bringing some of that local flavor and small business success stories to the airport. So I am looking forward to supporting this extension. Any additional comments from council? Roll call.
Ansari.
Yes.
DeCiccio.
No.
Guardado.
Yes.
O'Brien.
Yes.
Pastor.
Yes.
Stark. Waring.
Yes.
Garcia.
Yes.
Gallego. Passes 8-1.
We next move to item 86, the October 2021 proposed bus service changes. Do we have a motion?
Motion to approve item 86.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. We do have a member of the public to address the council. Would Mark Rodriguez please testify?
Hello, Mayor Kate Gallego and everybody at the City Council. It's good to hear from you guys again. I'm wondering that you guys are going to change the bus in October, because I always take the bus all the time, because I always take the bus all the way to the stores, to restaurants and malls and all that stuff, because it's kind of having fun riding on the bus. And I doubt you'll be changing real soon in October, because it is because I am trying to always get on the bus and all that, because I like riding on the bus, because I always like to ride everywhere on the bus as well. And also I want to give a shout out to Yasmin Asari, Carlos Garcia, Betty Wangado, Laura Pastor, Deborah Stark, which I also want to meet, Dan O'Brien, which I wanted to meet, Jim Waring, Sal DeCiccio, which I'm still not a fan of him, but I respect to that, because I always love talking to you guys and all that. It's because I'm always been a fan of you guys, of the city councils, because I always love helping in all the communities and all that stuff, because I'm a Phoenix resident too. I was born and raised here, and I live with my mom, and we still live in Levine. And I hope you have a great day. Have a wonderful time. Sayonara.
Thank you, Mark. Any council member discussions? Councilwoman Guardado.
Thank you, Mayor. Well, I just want to thank Mark. I get it, how important our bus lines are. He makes it to every event. I think I've seen him at two different vaccination events. So, Mark, thank you so much for all your help and all your support and always coming out, and definitely excited about these bus routes. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. And thanks to all who worked hard to update our bus routes. Roll call.
Ansari. DeCiccio.
Yes.
Guardado.
Yes.
O'Brien.
Yes.
Pastor. I apologize. Pastor?
Yes.
Thank you. Stark? Waring?
Yes.
Garcia?
Yes.
Gallego?
Yes.
Passes 9-0.
We next move to item 90, the Don Bowles ceremonial sign toppers. Vice Mayor?
Motion to approve item 90.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. We do have one member of the public to address the council on this item. Steve Berline, the floor is yours.
Mayor and Council, my name is Steve Berline. I want to thank Deputy City Manager Mario Paniagua and the Street Transportation Department for submitting this. A good friend of mine is Don Bowles' daughter. We went through kindergarten through 8th grade at Tavana Elementary School, and we attended high school together. Our families were very close. June 13th, 1976, when her father was assassinated, we had just graduated from 8th grade, and it was supposed to be an exciting time. And it ended up being such a sad summer. And Don Bowles, his life was taken from him while he was using his profession really in journalism to make our city a better and safer place to live. And when I saw this on the agenda, I texted his daughter, and she did know that this was going to be on the agenda. She said, "This is absolutely wonderful." Her and her sister asked me to pass on to you all how grateful they are, and thank you for this consideration. And his family and his grandchildren will be proud of this recognition that you all have an opportunity to provide for Don Bowles. So with that, I thank you, and I hope you can support this agenda item.
Thank you, Steve. I know it's probably difficult to testify about such a hard moment, but we really appreciate your testimony and reaching out to the family. This came to us for an application through the Clarendon Hotel, which is funding it. Councilwoman Pastor represents the area, and we will turn to her.
So I really want to thank the Clarendon Hotel for submitting this, and also for paying for the sign topper. As you know, June 1976, Don Bowles was killed by a car bomb outside of the Hotel Clarendon while investigating a story regarding a land deal that presumably was connected to top-ranking Arizona politicians with the mafia. So he sacrificed his life in doing in investigating and doing a good deed to get to the truth. So my heart goes out to the family, and this is one way to pay back to the family and all the sacrifices that they had experienced, and be able to go to the hotel and see their father's name. So thank you for Clarendon Hotel.
I will second. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman Stark. Any additional council comments?
Mayor?
Councilman DeCiccio.
I will keep them brief. Don Bowles was a great man, and the things that his family had to endure after that are just unimaginable. I mean, you cannot imagine that going on in our country. That just doesn't happen here. It's not supposed to happen here. And the fact that he was brave enough to do what he had to do shows a lot for the integrity, and shows pretty much about how his family was treated. And from my end of it, many thanks to the family for what they had to endure, and my prayers that go out to them as well, and they constantly do. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilman DeCiccio. Roll call.
Ansari. DeCiccio.
Sorry.
Yes.
Guardado. O'Brien. Pastor. I'm sorry, Pastor.
I keep doing what you're telling me and I don't hear me. So yes, yes, yes.
Thank you very much. Stark.
Yes.
Waring.
Yes.
Garcia.
Yes.
Gallego. Passes 9-0.
Thank you. We next move to item 93, which is the Transportation 2050 Program Management Consultant. Do we have a motion?
Motion to approve item 93.
We have a motion and a second. I certainly appreciate the work AECOM has done to move our ambitious investment agenda forward and help us communicate to the public about what we are doing. Additional comments? Roll call.
Ansari.
Yes.
DeCiccio.
No.
Guardado.
Yes.
Thank you. O'Brien.
Yes.
Pastor. Stark. Waring. I apologize. Waring.
No.
Thank you.
Did you hear?
Garcia. Yes. Thank you. Garcia.
Yes.
Gallego.
Yes.
Passes 7-2.
Thank you. Item 117 is the biennial certified audit of land use assumption infrastructure improvement plan and development fees. We will begin this item with a staff report from our Planning and Development Director, Alan Stevenson.
Thank you, Mayor, members of council. This item, in short, is an audit of the city's impact fee program. Our impact fees are charged in our new growth areas at the time of issuance of a building permit, and they help pay for the capital costs of public infrastructure to serve that new development. This audit is required pursuant to state law, and it requires that we have a third-party reviewer come in and do the audit of the program, and then there's a public hearing before the council. However, the council does not have to take action on the item. In this particular case, this slide lays out the audit report has been available on our website pursuant to the 60 days required under state law. We did meet with our development community stakeholders and went over the results with them. Was a quick summary of that. So overall, within the last 2 years of this audit period, the city collected $83.4 million in expenses to new development to help cover our capital facilities cost. The audit looks at 3 different items, the actual and projected new development projections. That's the amount of growth and development that's going to happen in those north and south areas, the accuracy of the impact fee charges, as well as how the money was spent to make sure that it is spent in appropriate categories for items that are within the plan. In this case, the land use demand projections coming out of the Great Recession, they were a little bit more aggressive than what actually happened, and so the overall audit found that they were about 52% above what was the projections were above what was actually developed. And so this is a great example of how being on top of updating your impact fee program and doing these audits allows you to adjust that, because we had already went back in and adjusted that growth rate as of April 2020 to address these issues. Overall, there were no major discrepancies found. There were a total of 5 water resource acquisition fees out of 35,000 transactions where there was an error committed by staff, and that combined overcharge was $8,000. That has all since been refunded. This is an example of the third component of it, which is expenditures. So this is how the various departments spend the impact fee monies that are collected. And so you see before you pictures of, for example, Fire Station 55 up in District 1. There was about $1 million of money from impact fees went into building that facility that allowed for response times to be reduced from about 12 minutes up in that area to the citywide average of 3 to 5 minutes. The center picture is a new park that was built in Lavelle area using impact fee monies as well. That is the one that's a joint use with the school district down there, and was one of the first parks that was able to open down in the Lavelle area. And then the third one that you see is a Baseline Road Widening project. And so this was an effort where there was about a couple $1 million of impact fee monies were put into allowing the city to do a joint development project with developers on both the north and south side of Baseline Road, so that Baseline Road improvements could be put in concurrent with the construction of the freeway, so that when it opened, the road was already in place, easier to use for the public, and it facilitated development on that south parcel in particular, which was a Sprouts and a retail center, and also led to the Harkins Theater that is going to be built a little bit further south as well. Overall, in summary, the audit found that there were no discrepancies materially in the revenue. Expenditures were all as they were permitted, and the land use assumptions were since revised to adjust for a slower growth rate than was originally projected out of the Great Recession. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions, and I would like to thank Adam Miller, who is our infrastructure financing team leader, for his leadership on this entire effort. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for our Planning and Development Director? All right. And I should note, this is a companion item to an item that passed on our consent agenda earlier today for investment and study about public safety infrastructure in North Phoenix that has been a priority for Councilwoman O'Brien and Councilman Waring to make sure that we do have the appropriate public safety infrastructure as our city grows. I will open the public hearing. We do not have any members of the public to address the council, so I will close the public hearing. Any final questions from council members? Thank you. We will next go to item 118 related to landscape maintenance. And again, welcome our Planning and Development Director for a staff report.
Thank you, Mayor, members of council. I'm going to introduce Mr. Josh Bednarik, who is the Deputy Director within the Planning and Development Department, and he has been the lead on the landscape maintenance text amendment which is an outgrowth of direction that the council provided in 2018 regarding implementing the Tree and Shade Master Plan. And so Josh has been working with all the various stakeholders to lead this effort, which is across various city departments, as well as the private sector and the public stakeholders who are interested in this. So with that, Josh, please go ahead.
Thank you, Alan. Mayor, members of the council, as Alan said, really excited to be here. This text amendment directly responds to some long-standing council-adopted policies, the Tree and Shade Master Plan, the Phoenix General Plan, and soon the Climate Action Plan. So what does this text amendment do? Really break it down into three parts. It strengthens existing zoning ordinance and codifies best practices by embracing three concepts. Trees are infrastructure, trees provide benefits when appropriately planted, and trees should be kept in place in a healthy and living condition. And we use those three core concepts as lenses as we evaluate the ordinance to see what changes we would need. Before I go too far with that, I want to point out a quick clarification that we really needed to make sure that we addressed during the public hearing process. This text amendment applies to commercial property, so landscape setbacks and any common open space areas, industrial landscape setbacks, multifamily property with landscape setbacks and common open space, single-family subdivisions with their landscape setbacks and common open space areas, but it does not apply to individual homeowner lots. The graphic on here highlights a conceptual subdivision and highlights some of the areas where this TA would apply. So that's the open space areas and then the perimeter landscape areas. Okay, so back to what does this text amendment do? We're proposing changes to two sections of the Phoenix zoning ordinance, Chapter 5 and Chapter 7. Chapter 5 really embraces the concepts of trees as infrastructure, and trees provide benefits when appropriately planted. So the modifications we're proposing is just a reinforcing that site inspection and certificate of occupancy are tied to the fact that the landscaping that was said was going to be put in is actually in, that an approved landscape plan on file with us is the valid document guiding landscaping on site. We made some modifications to the design guidelines to provide some clarity where we had some inconsistency. Added some language with respect to plant materials to better address the concept of right tree, right place. The concept of tree protection, which I'm going to cover in a couple subsequent slides, was something that came up and was added to this text amendment through the public hearing process as a direct result of a lot of great advocacy by members of the Urban Heat Island and Tree and Shade Subcommittee, specifically committee member Nicole Rodriguez. The graphic that you see on this slide here is a very simple illustration of the tree protection concept, where essentially we're requiring a developer to come in when they want to preserve a tree to show how that tree is going to be protected. One of the basic measures that's typically employed is a fence is put around the tree in line with the tree's critical root zone. Also proposing changes to Chapter 7, that this embraces the concept of trees should be kept in place in a healthy and living condition. This is where we outline the landscape removal standards, installation and maintenance plans, and then the salvage and tree protection plans. Really appreciate all the support we got through the public hearing process from our village planning committees and the Environmental Quality and Sustainability Commission. We heard loud and clear from our village planning committees a strong level of support, but they also gave us direction that they wanted us to incorporate language with respect to tree protection zones into the text amendment. Happy to report that thanks to a lot of great work, again, by Nicole and other members of the Urban Heat Island Tree and Shade Subcommittee, we're able to work together, take a look at Nicole's language, integrate that into the text amendment, propose an updated version of the text amendment to the Planning Commission, and ultimately receive unanimous approval from the Planning Commission. I want to close by just thanking, again, the members of the Urban Heat Island Tree and Shade Subcommittee for all their time and effort, from the chair, Ginger, to Amy Esposito, to some of the longtime members that we worked with. And when we started this, Dwayne Allen, Sarah Porter, all the members of the Environmental Quality and Sustainability Commission, our utility partners, APS and SRP, lots of community organizations who contributed to this process. And I also want to just take a second to note the tremendous work of our staff. Jackie Keller, our landscape architect, has been a tremendous technical resource for us. Christopher DePero oversees our site planning team, was really the original author of this text amendment, and Tricia Gomes, who's been my partner going out into the community and working with everyone and oversees all of our text amendment efforts. I also want to thank Nancy Allen for all of her help in working with the various committees and Bob Lozier from NSD. Mayor, members of the council, that concludes the presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions. We humbly would offer a potential motion to move to approve the Planning Commission recommendation and adopt the related ordinance. Thank you.
Wonderful, thank you. We will have a very brief public hearing and then take a motion, but do any council members have questions at this point? All right. I will open the public hearing. Like the last one, we did not receive any registered individuals. I will close the public hearing. Do we have a motion?
Motion to approve per the Planning Commission's approval and adopt the related ordinance.
I will second.
Thank you, Councilwoman Stark. I want to join Josh in thanking our Environmental Quality and Sustainability Commission, our villages, our Planning Commission, and all those who were engaged with this process. It's an important, tangible step to support trees that makes a lot of sense in conjunction with our budget vote today to plant 1,800 additional trees per year in cool corridors with heat vulnerable populations and additional staff to maintain them. Council member comments. We'll go to Councilwoman Ansari and then Councilwoman Stark.
With the temperatures rising, it's more important than ever that our city works to preserve and enhance shading for pedestrians. I'm very excited to vote in support of this new language that will keep our city, but also people who do business in our city more accountable in this space. I haven't had the pleasure of meeting Nicole Rodriguez, but I've heard so much about her. And I really applaud her for leading the charge in this effort, as well as folks such as Amy Esposito at Trees Matter, Ryan Boyd at Urban Phoenix Project, and Stacy Champion for really working so hard and echoing the urgency of this matter. With this amendment, no trees, plants, or cacti may be removed or destroyed on a property without first obtaining a salvage plant permit, and people who do business in our city are actually going to be kept accountable to ensure that these same plants and trees are healthy and sound. This is a small but important step that will ensure that Phoenix actually meets the Tree and Shade Master Plan goals, and more importantly, better serve our residents for generations to come. So thank you again to everyone who worked so hard on this, and I look forward to supporting the motion.
Councilwoman Stark.
Thank you, Mayor. I want to thank Josh. I know he worked on this. It was, I'm going to say, a labor of love. Correct, Josh? I know that you had to work with a lot of different interests on it, and I think you came out with a remarkable ordinance. I just hope that we also attempt to do the same on our right-of-ways and in our parks, that we offer up the same kind of solutions that we're asking the business and multifamily community to do. I will be supporting this as well. Thanks, Josh.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Councilwoman Pastor.
I would just like to also state that, as my colleagues had mentioned, many people have been working on this. It's been a time, lots of time has passed. I would like to thank Stacy Champion and Nicole Rodriguez for really working with staff on some of the items that weren't accepted by the group in the, I don't know the acronyms, I know it's SQSC, and then worked with Alan and Josh on clarifying some of the language and getting it to where it needs to be. So I want to thank everybody. Everybody worked on this and appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Roll call.
Ansari.
Yes.
DeCiccio.
Just a quick explanation, Mayor. I'm going to be opposed to this for many reasons, but one of the big ones, and it just cracks me up, government always imposes rules on others and never imposes those same rules upon themselves. And that is just pitiful. I mean, if you're going to impose rules on individuals and, that are part of our, basically our bosses, you should at least impose them upon yourself. And it just doesn't happen this way. Thank you, Mayor.
Guardado. O'Brien.
Yes.
Pastor.
Yes.
Stark.
Yes.
Waring. I apologize. Waring?
No. Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you. Garcia?
Yes.
Gallego?
Yes.
Thank you. Passes 7-2.
Thank you. That is our final agendized item for today. We next move to the citizen comment portion of our council meeting, and I'll turn to our city attorney to explain this portion of the meeting.
Thank you, Mayor. During citizen comment, members of the public may address the City Council for up to 3 minutes on issues of interest or concern to them. The Arizona Open Meeting Law permits the City Council to listen to the comments, but prohibits council members from discussing or acting on the matters presented.
Thank you. I will ask our staff to call the public comments.
Our first speaker is Ari Barung Huber, followed by Cynthia Graber. Ari, are you on the line? Ari is not on the line. So our next speaker is Cynthia Graber, followed by April Hernandez. Cynthia, are you on the line?
I am. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you. Please proceed.
Perfect. Mayor, council members, and city staff, I would like to start engaging in community outreach and want to recommend funding for cameras at every major intersection along the 19th Avenue light rail, otherwise known as the hotspot. Next year, we will receive $198 million in American Rescue Plan funds. If we could get funding for cameras at every major intersection along 19th Avenue light rail, it will make it safer, less jaywalkers, less prostitution. It will control speeders and a way to stop the same people creating crimes over and over again and selling drugs. Every major city has a camera system. We need them to keep everyone safe. Please keep that in mind. Thank you.
Our next speaker is April Hernandez, followed by Phil Lopez. April, are you on the line? April is not on the line. Our next speaker is Phil Lopez, followed by Erica Martinez. Phil, are you on the line? Phil is not on the line. Our next speaker is Erica Martinez, followed by Scott Matos Elliott. Erica, are you on the line? Erica is not on the line, so our next speaker is Scott Matos Elliott, followed by Santos Mojica. Scott, are you on the line?
Yep, I'm on the line. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you. Please proceed.
Hello? Gotcha. So good afternoon, members of the Phoenix City Council. My name is Scott Matos Elliott, and I work for HNS Host at Phoenix Sky Harbor Airport for about 2 years as a barista. I'm here to address the concerns and say that they don't need any more rent relief because they have not increased the staffing. We have dealt with a lot of problems considering like COVID violations, not enough employees to help maintain good staffing, and broken and run down equipment. If you can keep this in mind when giving them more rent relief and demand that they step up and help fix and staff us, that would be much appreciated. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Santos Mojica, followed by Chitula Mumeka. Santos, are you on the line? Santos is not on the line.
¿Se encuentra en la línea, Santos?
Santos is not on the line. So our next speaker is Chitula Mumeka, followed by Maria Ocampo. Chitula, are you on the line? Chitula is not on the line. So our next speaker is Maria Ocampo, followed by Abby Pacheco. Maria, are you on the line?
Yes.
Thank you. Please proceed.
Good afternoon, members of the City of Phoenix Council. My name is Maria Ocampo.
I have working for HMS Host at Phoenix Sky Harbor Airport for 32 years. Through all the hard workers we fall in HMS Host, success serving Starbucks, coffee, drinking, and snacks to contact follow of the Sky Harbor guests. However, our jobs are not sustained. We are under environment pressure every day to perform your work to the company high standards, but without the workforces we need to do so because of the understaffing, including in our exclusion of the boat workers and training managers. We find ourselves rushing to full orders and on extremely difficult environment. We ask the councils to help establish the dialogue between the workers and HMS Host to immediately correct this issue of the understaffing. Thank you. Yeah.
Our next speaker is Abby Pacheco, followed by Cassandra Presume. Abby, are you on the line? Abby is not on the line, so our next speaker is Cassandra Presume, followed by Carmen Quintana. Cassandra, are you on the line?
Yeah, I'm on the line.
Thank you. Please
Can you hear me?
proceed. Yes, we can.
All right. Good afternoon, members of the Phoenix City Council. My name is Cassandra Presume, and I have worked for HMS Host for about half a year. We have provided comment to the City Council throughout the pandemic to express our concerns with HMS Host. I work at Terminal 4 baggage claim Starbucks, and I have experienced discrimination with the Human Resources Department. I went in for ADA relief or accommodations, and they did not offer that to me at all, and instead made me feel very embarrassed for asking for these accommodations. I'm here to join my coworkers in saying that HMS Host cannot have it all. At the Terminal 4 baggage claim location where I work, we had 10 employees prior to the pandemic, and now we have just 3 employees. At the same time, this location had 47% more sales in April 2021 when compared to April 2019. HMS Host neither needs or deserves more relief. Their sales are recovering, but they are still not adequately staffing their location. We need the council to act to end the relief and solve this staffing crisis. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Carmen Quintana, followed by Maria Rios. Carmen, are you on the line?
¿Se encuentra en la línea Carmen Quintana?
Sí, estoy aquí.
Yes, I'm here. Adelante, señora.
Miembro del Consejo Municipal de Phoenix, mi nombre es Carmen Quintana.
Members on the council, mayor, my name is Carmen Quintana.
Y he trabajado para HMS Host Sky Harbor Airport como preparadora durante 33 años.
And I've been working at Sky Harbor Airport for HMS for 33 years as a preparer.
Hemos proporcionado comentarios al ayuntamiento durante la pandemia para expresar nuestras preocupaciones con HMS Host.
And during this pandemic era, we've been expressing our concerns throughout all these city council meetings.
Me uno a mis compañeros de trabajo para pedirle al concilio que ponga fin al alivio de HMS Host.
And we are asking to put an end to HMS Host.
La ciudad de Phoenix otorgó a HMS Host un alivio significativo en forma de una extensión de la garantía mínima anual.
The city of Phoenix provided a guarantee of a minimum.
A mí todavía no me han regresado a trabajar. Estoy esperando que HMS Host me llame
They haven't called me back to work yet. I'm still waiting for HMS host to call me back.
He estado descansando por más de un año y quiero regresar a mi trabajo.
I've been off for over a year now, and I want to go back to my work.
Hace unas semanas oí que posiciones de preparadora estaban disponibles y llamé a Celeste en Recursos Humanos.
A few weeks ago, I heard about they were hiring people for preparers, and so I called Celeste at HR.
Para decirle que estaba lista para regresar.
To let her know that I was ready to go back to work.
Al principio me dijo que estaba bien.
At the beginning, she told me that it was fine.
Después de unos minutos, Celeste me regresó la llamada diciendo que Yuri dijo que ese no era mi trabajo.
And then a few minutes later, she called me back, and she told me that Judy had said that that was not my job duty.
Yo siento que esa es como una discriminación contra señoras mayores.
I feel like that's a discrimination against older people.
Nuestra ciudad ya ayudó a HMS durante la pandemia y ahora los datos de la ciudad demuestran que en abril del 2021
Unfortunately, statistics have improved in the city of Phoenix, and that in April 2021,
el 79% de los embarques se han recuperado en comparación con abril del 2019.
that businesses have recovered, or 79% of businesses have recovered compared to April of last year.
Es hora de que HMS apoye a nuestra ciudad y a nuestros trabajadores. Gracias.
And we need for HMS host to support our employees. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Maria Rios, followed by Brianna Romero. Maria, are you on the line?
Siguiente oradora será María Ríos. ¿Se encuentra en la línea, señora María?
Sí.
Yes.
Aquí estoy. Buenas tardes, miembros del Consejo Municipal de Phoenix.
Good
Mi
afternoon,
nombre es
members of
María
the City
Ríos.
Council. My name is María Ríos.
Y he trabajado para HMS Host en Phoenix, Sky Harbor Airport, como preparadora durante 17 años.
And I've been working at HMS Host at Sky Harbor Airport as a preparer for 17 years.
Hemos proporcionado comentarios al ayuntamiento durante la pandemia para expresar preocupaciones con HMS Host.
We've expressed our concerns to the City Council meetings regarding HMS Host.
Me uno a mis compañeros de trabajo para pedirle al concilio que ponga fin al alivio de HMS Host.
Señora, le voy a pedir una repetición.
Me uno a mis compañeros de trabajo para pedir al concilio que ponga fin al alivio de HMS Host.
And I want to get together with my coworkers as well so that you can put a stop to the aid that is being provided to HMS Host.
La ciudad de Phoenix otorgó a HMS Host un alivio significativo en forma de una extensión de la garantía mínima anual.
And HMS Host was provided an extension of the annual guaranteed funds.
Y el problema es que todavía no nos han regresado a trabajar. Estamos listos para trabajar, pero no nos dan el trabajo.
The issue is that they're not calling us back to go back to work, and we are ready to go back.
Y para mí el problema mayor que siento un tipo de discriminación hacia nosotros que estamos grandes, porque estaban solicitando 80 personas para el aeropuerto,
And for me, the greatest concern is the discrimination that there is against the older people. There was 80 people that were applying for people that they wanted to hire.
Entonces yo llamé a la oficina y pregunté que si ya había trabajo para las preparadoras y me dijeron que no, que eran empleados solamente para el aeropuerto como cocineros. Entonces yo sé por personas que trabajan ahí que están agarrando gente nueva para preparadoras. Entonces no nos están dando el trabajo a los que tenemos 30 años o 20 años con la compañía.
And so I called the office and I asked if they're calling back the preparers, and they said no. They said cooks only for the airport. And so I know firsthand that people are saying that they are hiring preparers. So what they're doing is they're discriminating against these people that have been working there for over 20, 30 years.
Nuestra ciudad ya ayudó a HMS Host durante la pandemia y ahora los datos de la ciudad demuestran que en abril del 2020
Our city helped out HMS Host during the pandemic. And so the city in April 2020,
el 79% de los embarques se han recuperado en comparación de abril del 2019.
the statistics show that 79% of the businesses have now recovered compared to April of 2019.
Mi manera de pensar, creo que ya es hora de que HMS Host apoye la ciudad y a sus trabajadores también. Muchas gracias.
And my thought is that HMS Host shall start supporting the employees. That's all I want to say. Thank you very much.
Our next speaker is Brianna Romero, followed by Lucia Salinas. Brianna, are you on the line? Brianna is not on the line, so our next speaker is Lucia Salinas, followed by Victoria Stahl. Lucia, are you on the line? Lucia is not on the line. Our next speaker is Victoria Stahl, followed by David Vlasek. Victoria, are you on the line?
Yes, I am.
Thank you. Please proceed.
Good afternoon, members of the Phoenix City Council. My name is Victoria Stahl, and I've worked for HMS Host at Phoenix Sky Harbor Airport as a barista for about 5 months now. We have provided comments to the City Council throughout the pandemic to express our concerns with HMS Host. I work at the N4 Starbucks location in Terminal 4. My colleagues and I have spoken out about the understaffing we have to deal with shift after shift. One of my coworkers earlier, Abby, has already spoken. It is incredibly stressful and physically exhausting. While we are professionals at our job, it is extremely overwhelming to meet the standards that are needed to provide passengers at the airport with the best possible service. We sometimes work longer than we are scheduled to close operations. With fewer staff members, it takes much longer than it should to close. Many of our coworkers who have said that they cannot handle the stress or that they found better opportunities elsewhere have quit in recent weeks. HMS Host parent company, Autogrill, reported a 57% turnover rate for the incoming employees in North America in their 2020 financial report. The American Rescue Plan Act of 2021 appropriated $800 million in funds to be provided to an airport sponsor for the purpose of relief from rent and minimum annual guarantees for in-terminal airport concessionaires. We estimate that the City of Phoenix will likely receive a total allocations of approximately $19.2 million from these funds. We believe HMS Host does not need, nor do they deserve, any of these additional relief. We respectfully ask that Council to require HMS Host to publicly provide testimony to the Council and answer the following questions regarding the staffing crisis that my coworkers and I experience every day. 1, can HMS Host provide a breakdown of how much the firm received throughout the abated minimum guarantee lease payments at Phoenix Sky Harbor Airport and explain how Host used that relief, either serve payroll costs or other issues? 2, can HMS Host provide a breakdown of unemployment levels at Phoenix Sky Harbor? And 3, how is HMS Host working to bring more people on staff to lessen the burden for its current employees. Thank you so much for your time.
Our next speaker is David Vlasic, followed by Amber Zuniga. David, are you on the line? David is not on the line. Our final speaker is Amber Zuniga. Amber, are you on the line? Amber, are you on the line?
Yes, I did respond. My first name is Amber, middle name is Lynn, last name is Sunika. Can you hear me on the phone call?
Yes, we can hear you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And thank you very much for allowing me this opportunity.
Amber, are you still on the line?
I wanted to let you know that I'm very thankful to be on this phone call, and of course, Phoenix City Council. If you did not hear me the first time or the second time, my first name is Amber, middle name is Lynn, last name is Sunika. I have worked for HMS Host at Phoenix Sky Harbor Airport for over a year, and I wanted to let you know that we definitely did provide feedback as to the concerns at the airport and the ship schedules and if any emergencies occurred. So I wanted to let you know that at this time, the reason why I am on the call is because I'm one of the workers who informed HR directly and management directly of an emergency situation. And instead of acknowledging my emergency situation, they disregarded my phone calls, disregarded my text messages, and terminated me without a justified reason. And I'm one of the HMS workers. We currently do not have any negative write-ups within the 12 months or over 12 months. And I'm one of the workers at HMS Airport that would definitely accommodate weekends, holidays, not an issue. And the other concern is that I am here with my coworkers who have the ability to work at the airport, and my other coworkers who are trying to get back on the schedule. And so I am definitely joining my coworkers in saying that HMS Host cannot continue to behave negatively or abusively to the employees, to the workers who want to work, to the workers who are calling, texting, letting them know what's going on, and want to do more than just above average and do not want to provide poor service at all. And as of right now, I'm not at a terminal. I'm still waiting to be officially reinstated. And once again, I just wanted to thank you very much, Council, and I hope that you help in resolving this issue.
Mayor, Amber was our final registered speaker.
Wonderful. Thank you. That concludes today's council meeting. We are adjourned.